Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, story number 25, 3 days more. Suiwo, a disciple of the great Zen master Hakuin of the 1700s, was a good teacher. During one summer seclusion period, a pupil came to him from the southern island of Japan, and Suiwo gave him the koan, the sound of one hand. Now that koan is usually presented, here's the sound of two hands. What's the sound of one hand? And people come in but it's a more fundamental question. What is the sound of the universe? What is the sound of the source? What is the source of one hand? What is your essential nature? And so Hakuin phrased those fundamental questions. Who was I before my parents were born? He said, let's put it all in a very graphic, vivid way. What's the sound of one hand clapping? Now, to practice with that requires great intensity and great listening. One's whole body must become a listening ear. One's whole body must become a moving hand. It's a non-conceptual understanding, a non-conceptual expression. So something like the sound of one hand or the koan mu can't really be appreciated with a rational mind. Has to be experienced. Has to be the flavor of direct understanding has to come through. So he's working on this koan, sound of one hand clapping. The pupil remained 3 years, but could not pass the koan. One night he came in tears to Suiwo, I must return south in shame and embarrassment, for I can't solve my koan. Wait 1 more week, meditate constantly, advised Suiwo. Still no awakening. Try for 1 more week, Suiwo said. The pupil obeyed, but in vain. Still another week. This too was of no avail. In despair, the student begged to be released, but Suiwo said, just 1 more 5 days of practice. Without result. Suiwo said, 3 days. If you fail to have enlightenment in that time, you must kill yourself. You can kill yourself. Better kill yourself. On day 2, the student had an awakening. A number of really interesting threads here. First off, how determined are we actually to understand the existential question of our own life? What is it that's alive? How intensely is an answer to that question? What's the meaning of my life? Why am I here? How did this happen to come to be? For some people, that question can just go more and more deeply. It gets into the fiber of their bones and it becomes a passion. I've got to know. I've got to really see the root of this. And yet, if we have a deep aspiration and there's also a clinging mind, I want to get a thing. I want to get the present. I want to get the big reward. I want to win the lottery. Then, no matter how hard we practice, there's always this grasping mind. There's always this other mind. Not here, there. Not yet, then. And there's a duality. And the essence of these particular koans is the non-dual, the direct experience in this moment with no future. So how do you have a reward with no future? It can only be right now. So a mind that is endeavoring to see, to resolve a koan is vital, is essential. And yet that same mind that is endeavoring to resolve a koan sometimes stands in the way. Interesting paradox. If we don't actually ask a question, we don't find the answer. So we have to ask the question. On the other hand, if we think with a fundamental koan like this that the answer is somewhere else, then we stand in our own way. How do we bridge that gap? How do we bridge that gap? And that is a spiritual problem that must be set in, must be embodied, must be resolved. And only we can resolve it. And only we can resolve it with stability of mind, intensity of investigation.